All right, hello. My name is Brooke, and I am going to be your social worker today. I am a student at Tarleton in the social work department, and I am recording y'all. So is that going to be okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good deal. Now we've had some technical difficulties today, so this is how we're having to do the recording. But we're gonna make it through. Before we start the interview, we're just going to be talking about the stresses of COVID-19 as a student, as a teacher, as a parent-child relationship. So we're just going to be talking about that. Not anything that's too crazy, too out of the ordinary. But before we get into the interview, I do have to go ahead and let y'all know that if you do report any suicidal or homicidal tendencies, such as if you're going to harm yourself or someone else, I do have to report that. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
No.
Okay, good deal. So here we have Jeannie and Claire. They are a mother and daughter. Jeannie is a high school choir director, and Claire is in high school. Claire, what grade are you in?
I'm a sophomore.
A sophomore in high school. Okay. And so we're just going to be talking about the effects of COVID 19, how that has affected you as a student, how it has affected you as a teenager. And Jeannie, we're going to be talking about just the effects that COVID 19 has had on your students, has had on you as a teacher, and has had on you as a parent. So if you think back to 2020, right whenever the pandemic had started, right whenever COVID 19 kind of became a thing, to the point that we did have to shut down everything. Claire, what was your experience like with that?
I would say, like the first week, well, we were on spring break when it happened, and I remember thinking, like, yay, another week off of school, like, more, we didn't have to go to school, so I was kind of, like, glad, but I didn't really know what it was at the time, so I was just like, yay, no school, you know? But then we started to, like, not go back. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's, I don't know. But then we never took the STAR test that year. Obviously, everybody was happy about that. But I don't know if that's like I don't know. But we didn't do all that. Like, we didn't take the end of the year STAR test. We didn't take, everything was online, which was terrible. I didn't really like Zoom. Plus, I didn't know how to work it. So when everything went online, it was, I don't know, kind of stressful, I would say. But when it first started, I was just like, yay, no school.
Right. So it kind of sounds like there was a lot of pros and cons. Getting time off of school, a longer spring break, didn't have to take, your standardized test, but overall it was ended up sounded like it ended up being more difficult in the long run just because you did have to deal with the new classroom setting and all of the unfamiliar technology. Does that sound right?
Yes.
So, as a teacher and as a parent, how was your experience, Jeannie, with COVID 19? How was your experience different from how Claire just described? What was yours like?
Well, as a parent, it was it was kind of crazy just because I have three children that are at home and in school. And so while they're working on their laptops and trying to get things to load and working off the Wi-Fi, I was also trying to work off the Wi-Fi and getting my things to load. And so it was pretty hard. I had to change some of my assignments that I was giving my choir students, which was hard in itself because I teach choir. And so that was challenging to do online. But so I kind of had to change the way that I did things, but it also made me look at it differently as a teacher because I'm also a parent. Because I was seeing all the homework that they were getting from other teachers and just how much time it took and to get things done, and the technical issues with the computers not working and the Wi-Fi not
and just the extra added stress with that, I also saw that I needed to change my assignments just as a teacher. I, at first, was going to have my students upload a video of them singing, just a simple sight reading exercise that I had uploaded online. And then I soon realized that I had to change that because I couldn't even get the computer to load to look at the assignments from home from my end, from my students. And so I realized that I had to change that. And also realizing that students really don't like to sing on their own and video themselves singing. It's very, they feel just very exposed. And so I changed that and did some Google Forms. I had them watch some lessons on YouTube. I had them like either vocal lessons or watch a choir and then critique it and write different things about it, about what they saw. And so I kind of had to change it that way. But it was also just, it was crazy because with the year not finishing, we went to spring break and then just basically never came back. And so those seniors that I had that year, they didn't get that closure. They didn't get their spring concert. They didn't get their spring banquet that we do, and just a lot of things that I know they were looking forward to, and we were not able to give it to them. And so that's hard as a teacher. It's hard as a parent too, just to see the things that your own children are missing out on, things that traditional things that the sixth graders have a Camp Grady Spruce thing that they go camping trip that they go to every year the week after spring break, all the sixth graders. They didn't get to go do that year. And that's a tradition that's gone on for many, many years where students got to do that. And that particular group did not get to go. And so they did miss out on some things. And I still see the effects of it. I know that as a choir teacher, some of the schools, even that next year, as they're going into school, they weren't able to sing, and especially elementary. And then those students went to junior high the next year, and then didn't have a UIL, event. And then finally, it got to kind of where they did get one, but it was just a whole new experience because you're kind of starting ground zero. Usually what they did in 7th grade got to experience, they didn't get to experience till high school. And so they are behind on a lot of things that I'm seeing just in choir.
Right. So it sounds like, to me, kind of what I'm hearing is that not only did kids miss out on a lot of really important traditions and a lot of things that had been done, year after year for each group, for each age group, they were missing out on all of that. And it's kind of caused them to be behind, or it's caused them to have a much different experience from those that have gone before them. How have you as a teacher dealt with the, you said that kids were kind of behind. How have you as a teacher tried to correct that in your students?
I think a lot of it is, and it's, of course, we're playing catch up in many areas, and we realize that they're just not in the skill level that they normally would be, and so it's just a lot of patience. But I think really we've changed our focus a little bit as teachers, whereas we're not only teaching the material now, we're also teaching them self-discipline again and responsibility, because when COVID happened, all of a sudden they didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to go anywhere. They didn't have to go do anything that was like hard or whatever. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm doing online lessons and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But now that we're back in school, and now they have to go to practices, and now they have to go to after school stuff and get credit for things. I've seen, I know personally in the music world, and for example, we do a musical theater, a musical that we every year, and we did a musical this year, and we had several drop out because they had to be consistent in coming to rehearsal, and it was different for them, and it was kind of like, oh, well, they felt like they had a choice, I guess, of coming or something. So it's, again, now we're kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, yes, we got to teach these skills and we got to teach this, but it's also just, it's responsibility, and it's that self-discipline that you still have to, you have to come to stuff now. You got to show up for rehearsal. You got to put that effort. It's almost like when it gets hard, they want to quit and kind of pull back.
Right.
And so I've seen that.
So Claire, as a student, I guess my last question is for Claire. In the last couple of minutes that we have, as a student, going back to being in person, would you describe that as a positive or a negative experience?
I remember going back, and I was like, I remember making a joke, and I was like, how was y'all spring break? Because, like, the last time I saw everyone was literally spring break.
Right.
And I was going into high school. I think it happened my 8th grade year. Yeah, so I was going back into high school. And obviously I didn't want to go back because we were gone for such a long time. And I was just like, oh, I have to go back. But then I went to high school, and I was like, that's a big change from junior high to high school, especially not having half of an 8th grade year. And then I still hear my teachers talking about it now. Like, one of my teachers is like, no, like, a lot of y'all are giving up. Half of y'all don't do anything in this class. And he talks about still COVID and how that messed up so much. And he's like, well, y'all didn't even have half of an 8th grade year. So, meaning, like, half of our classes, we miss so many subjects because, you know, online work is not the same, and all the videos that they give us, it's not the same as being in person. So I think it was a positive in a way, but I think it was a positive effect, but also with the musical, it was hard for the others to keep going because it was a little group for like this huge musical production, and so when other kids were dropping out, it was frustrating because you're like, come on, help us out. And then we had all these new freshmen we didn't know, and I don't know, it was a lot of time lost in school and in activities and areas like that.
Yeah, I mean, the positive side of that, I would say, is that, you know, there were kids that were in the musical that were able to, you know, stick it through, and hopefully, you know, even though that there is like all of this time lost, you know, 8th grade is kind of one of those years where they're preparing you for high school, and when you lose part of that year, it is kind of difficult to adjust, you know, to how things are supposed to be as a high school student. And you know, all of those kind of in-between grades where they're trying to prepare you for middle school, prepare you for junior high, prepare you for high, like, it's just, you know, kids throughout all of those different grades are probably experiencing something very similar to what you experience, where, you know, I missed that year where they're trying to prepare us for that next year, and now I feel behind, or I feel like I'm lacking in some self-discipline or some different skills like that. So yeah, I mean, overall COVID has had some pretty far-reaching effects in the lives of students and teachers and parents, and so it's been good to have y'all's perspective on that, and to be able to listen to y'all talk about that. But I appreciate y'all meeting with me, and I believe that I don't have any more questions for y'all, so thank you so much for talking to me.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.